Right now, local independent restaurants are willingly dropping up to $300,000 to build custom delivery apps. And the crazy thing is, these apps do the exact same thing as DoorDash and Uber Eats.
Yeah, it sounds completely counterintuitive at first glance.
Right. On the surface, deciding to build your own massive digital logistics platform from scratch, it sounds like financial suicide. I mean,
Yeah.
you are basically taking on the tech giants at their own game.
Exactly. But underneath that interface, there is a really massive shift happening.
Totally. So welcome to today's deep dive. We're looking at the current landscape of delivery app development for 2026 and 2027 based on a comprehensive new strategic guide we've got in front of us. We are breaking down why businesses are taking this monumental risk and, more importantly, the actual hidden mechanics of what it takes to pull it off.
It's a huge topic.
It really is. Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand why a local burger joint suddenly wants to become a software company, we have to look at the terrifying economics of the modern restaurant industry.
We do. It really is a battle over margins, data, and, well, ultimate survival. The core conflict driving this entire trend is the commission structure of the dominant third-party delivery platforms.
The big guys.
Right, the big guys. Those platforms are charging restaurants anywhere from 15 to 30% on every single order.
30%, that's just wild.
It is.
Yeah.
And in an industry notoriously famous for operating on razor-thin margins, giving up nearly a third of your top-line revenue isn't just, an inconvenience. It completely fundamentally breaks the business model.
Yeah.
It turns a packed, high-volume Friday night rush into a completely break-even scenario. You're doing all the work but making zero profit.
I was actually thinking about this earlier, and the best way I can visualize that dynamic for you is this. Relying entirely on these massive platforms is like renting a storefront, where the landlord takes 30% of your daily register, refuses to let you learn your regular customers' names, and might just, change the locks on the doors if a black box algorithm decides to penalize your search ranking.
That's a really good way to put it.
Right. You just have zero leverage.
What's fascinating here is that the physical cost, that 30% fee we just talked about, often distracts from the deeper strategic loss.
Which is what?
Data gatekeeping. When a customer orders through a third-party app, the restaurant just receives an order ticket, but the platform retains the entire behavioral graph.
Oh, wow. So they keep all the actual insights.
Exactly. The platform knows exactly what that user ordered, their frequency, their price sensitivity, and their location. They deliberately build a wall between the restaurant and the consumer. So by building a custom app, a business is essentially buying back its own customer relationships.
Okay, so you're not just avoiding a fee. You're buying the ability to run targeted predictive retention marketing.
Precisely.
Like if you own the data, you know a specific customer orders a spicy chicken sandwich every other Thursday at 7 p.m. You can push a targeted loyalty offer right at 6:30 p.m. to guarantee that conversion.
Yeah, rather than just hoping they stumble across your generic listing in a really crowded third-party feed.
Right. You own the brand identity, you dictate the delivery radius, and you remove the dependency risk.
Exactly. You aren't waking up checking the news to see if a tech giant changed its commission structure overnight. You have control.
Which brings us to the actual down payment for this kind of independence. Because if owning the digital relationship is the goal, the price tag in the 2026-2027 tech landscape is, it's severe.
It's definitely not cheap.
No. The development costs fall into three main tiers. A basic MVP, a minimum viable product that runs between $30,000 and $80,000.
And that's just the baseline.
Right. Then an intermediate tier app pushes that to between $80,000 and $180,000.
Yeah.
And an advanced or enterprise level system sits at $200,000 to well over $300,000.
The timelines scale identically, too. From a fast 2 to 4 month sprint for an MVP up to 10+ months of development for an enterprise build.
And those tiers represent vastly different operational capabilities, right?
Very different.
I have to put myself in the shoes of a business owner looking at those numbers. Like if I run a successful local pizza place, I'm immediately zeroing in on that $30,000 MVP.
Makes sense. Keep the costs low.
Yeah, I mean, I just need people to order a pepperoni pizza and pay for it. Why wouldn't I just take the absolute cheapest route? What is the strategic risk of launching a bare-bones system?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the risk is user expectation.
Right.
Their customers have been conditioned by the flawless multi-million-dollar interfaces of Uber Eats and DoorDash. A $30,000 MVP gives you functional user registration, a static menu, and payment integration. It gets the pizza out the door.
But it's basic.
Super basic. And if your app lacks real-time GPS driver tracking, or if the UI is slightly clunky, or, if it doesn't offer one-tap reordering, the modern consumer will simply delete it and go back to the aggregator platform.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've definitely done that with bad apps.
Right. You have to align your feature wish list with the scale of consumer expectation in your market.
So the intermediate tier, that $80,000 to $180,000 range, is where you start buying parity with the big guys.
Exactly. You get the real-time mapping, the in-app customer support chat, and a sophisticated analytics dashboard for the kitchen to track prep times.
Got it. And I'm guessing that enterprise tier, the $300,000 behemoth, is for like multi-vendor support.
Spot on. That's when you are building an architecture designed to host multiple different restaurant brands under one digital roof.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, complete with custom delivery zone algorithms, white label portals for different franchises, and AI-driven personalized recommendations based on past user behavior.
So where does a $100,000 budget actually evaporate to? Because it's not all just paying engineers to write code, is it?
No, the capital allocation in a typical build is highly structured. About 60% goes directly to development.
Okay, so a big chunk.
Yeah, that is the heavy lifting. Engineering the front-end interface, architecting the back-end servers, building the databases, and writing all the API bridges to connect it all together.
And the remaining 40%.
Well, 15% is dedicated to UI and UX design. 10% is spent in the initial discovery phase.
Discovery phase, like research.
Exactly. Mapping out competitive analysis and technical scoping before a single line of code is even written. Then another 10% goes into rigorous quality assurance and testing across hundreds of different device types.
Testing is huge.
And the final 5% handles the complex deployment processes to actually get the software approved by Apple and Google.
Wow. And there is also a massive geographic arbitrage play happening here, according to the sources. Like, a development budget isn't universal. It depends heavily on the time zones and local economies you tap into.
Oh, absolutely. Location changes everything.
Yeah, building a comprehensive system with a North American engineering team is what drives that cost up to the $150,000 to $300,000 range. But routing that same architectural plan to a development firm in Latin America drops the cost to between $80,000 and $150,000.
It's a huge difference.
And sourcing from Asia brings it to roughly $90,000 to $180,000. The tech talent is global, but the burn rate is highly localized.
It forces businesses to basically act like international tech startups. They have to weigh the communication friction of different time zones against massive capital savings.
Okay, so let's assume you navigate all of that. You wire the funds, you win it 6 months, you pass the QA testing, and your app goes live on the store. You pop the champagne, delete your third-party delivery accounts, and just wait for the margins to improve.
And that is the exact moment many operators experience a brutal reality check.
Right.
Launching the software is just day one of the actual battle.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the initial development cost is just the tip of a massive hidden iceberg. I look at this through a printer and ink analogy.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so dropping 80 grand on initial app development is like buying the printer at the electronics store. It feels like a big purchase, but it's finite. The ongoing API fees, the server hosting, the payment processing gateways, that is the insanely expensive printer ink that drains your accounts relentlessly month after month, and it scales up alongside your volume.
That analogy perfectly illustrates the operational overhead under the waterline. Let's actually break down the mechanics of that printer ink.
Let's do it.
First, you have payment processing. The app doesn't magically process credit cards. It relies on a gateway like Stripe, which takes a standard cut, typically 2.9% plus 30 cents per transaction.
Let's run the math on that for you listening, because it scales mercilessly.
Yeah.
If your custom app processes 10,000 orders a month at an average order value of $30, that's $300,000 in gross revenue.
Right.
Stripe's 2.9% takes $8,700, and the 30-cent flat fee per order takes another $3,000. You are bleeding $11,700 every single month solely for the privilege of letting customers hand you their money.
It's painful.
Yeah.
And that is just one API integration. Remember the real-time GPS tracking feature we discussed?
Yeah, the map.
That functionality requires constant polling of the Google Maps API to calculate driver routes, traffic, and ETAs. Depending on your volume, that single feature can cost an additional $200 to $2,000 a month.
Wow. And then you have the SMS notification layers. Services like AWS or Twilio handle the automated text messages that your food is out for delivery alerts or the one-time passwords for user logins.
Yeah, you are paying fractions of a cent per ping, but at scale, it's just another recurring line item.
And it all adds up.
We also have to factor in technology decay.
What do you mean by that?
Software is not a static asset. It degrades over time as the environment around it changes. Apple and Google are constantly updating their mobile operating systems. If iOS 18 changes how background location tracking works, your app's dependencies might just break.
Oh man, so you have to constantly update it.
The industry standard forecasts that annual maintenance will run a business 15 to 25% of the original development cost. So an app that cost $100,000 to build requires $15,000 to $25,000 a year just to keep the lights on and patch the code.
And the ultimate irony here is that if your marketing is too successful, you can actually bankrupt your own infrastructure.
The cloud computing trap.
Yeah.
Modern apps are hosted on infrastructure like AWS or Google Cloud, which build dynamically based on compute usage. So if you run a highly successful promotional campaign or experience a viral moment on social media, your concurrent user count skyrockets.
Which sounds good.
Right, but if your architecture isn't configured for elastic auto-scaling, the servers will simply crash under the load, ruining the customer experience.
That's a nightmare.
But if you do have auto-scaling set up, your cloud instances will automatically duplicate to handle the traffic, resulting in an astronomical hosting bill at the end of the month.
You just can't win. And you still have to acquire the users in the first place. The estimates show a bare minimum of $20,000 to $50,000 allocated strictly for launch marketing in a single geographic city.
Minimum.
Yeah, you have to buy the digital ad space, subsidize first-order discounts, and actively convince consumers to dedicate precious home screen real estate to an app that only serves one specific restaurant.
It requires an aggressive, sustained capital deployment strategy.
Which naturally invites a major pushback.
Mm.
If a local business is paying Stripe $12,000 a month, paying thousands to Google Maps, absorbing dynamic AWS server costs, and dropping $20,000 a year on iOS patches, aren't they just trading one master for another?
That is the big question.
I mean, to cover all of this operational ink, they have to charge their customers delivery fees and service charges anyway. Don't they end up becoming the exact high-commission platform they originally set out to escape?
This raises an important question about the difference between an external toll and internal operational scale.
Okay, unpack that.
Yes, the business assumes a heavy operational burden. The distinction is that a 30% third-party commission is a permanent ceiling on your profitability. That capital vanishes, and so does the behavioral data. When you manage the overhead internally, the costs scale, but you are building enterprise value into an asset you own outright.
Got it. So how do you manipulate the economics to make that asset profitable without alienating the user base?
It requires deploying specific monetization models directly within the app. The most straightforward is dynamic delivery fees.
Like surge pricing.
Exactly. Algorithmically adjusting the delivery charge based on demand spikes, weather conditions, or driver availability to maximize yield during peak hours. If the app is a multi-vendor platform, you introduce high-margin in-app advertising, allowing specific restaurants to bid for premium placement at the top of the local search results.
But the real holy grail for covering those massive server costs is the subscription model, right?
Oh, without a doubt.
Replicating the mechanics of DashPass or Uber Eats One. You charge the user a flat monthly fee of, say, $10, and in exchange, you waive the delivery fees on all their orders. It guarantees the business a predictable stream of recurring revenue to offset the AWS and API bills.
And it locks them in?
Yes.
Go.
It simultaneously locks the customer into a sunk cost mindset. Once they pay that monthly fee, they are heavily incentivized to route all their dining decisions through your app to maximize the value of their subscription.
Exactly. You secure the recurring revenue on the front end. But equally important are the architectural strategies used to aggressively shrink the cost side during the actual development phase.
Let's dig into those technical cost reduction strategies. How do you build a platform of this scale without hemorrhaging capital from day one?
The first major strategy is starting with a monolithic architecture rather than immediately deploying microservices.
Explain the mechanical difference there. Why is a monolith cheaper?
So a monolithic architecture means the entire application, the user database, the payment processing gateway, the menu catalog is all built and deployed as a single unified block of code.
Okay.
It shares the same memory space and the same database. It is significantly faster and cheaper to engineer upfront because you don't have to build complex routing logic to make different parts of the app talk to each other.
Whereas microservices would isolate those functions.
Right. In a microservices architecture, the payment system and the menu system operate completely independently on their own servers.
Which sounds safer.
It's incredibly powerful for massive scale. Like, if the payment system crashes, the menu stays online. But it requires an enormous upfront engineering budget to orchestrate. Starting monolithic saves crucial capital. You prove the business model first and then refactor into microservices only when order volume demands it.
That is smart. Another major strategy for slashing the engineering budget is utilizing cross-platform development frameworks like Flutter or React Native.
Huge game changer.
Historically, if you wanted an app, you had to hire a specialized team to write Swift code for iPhones and a completely separate, equally expensive team to write Kotlin code for Android devices. 2 code bases, 2 testing cycles, double the maintenance.
Cross-platform technology fundamentally alters that equation. You write one single code base in React Native, and the framework compiles it into native applications for both iOS and Android simultaneously.
That's amazing.
Yeah, you effectively cut your core engineering team size in half while reaching the entire mobile market.
And finally, there is the shift towards serverless architecture. Instead of provisioning dedicated servers that just sit idle during the quiet hours between lunch and dinner, literally burning cash while doing absolutely nothing, serverless computing changes the paradigm.
Serverless architecture, utilizing platforms like AWS Lambda, means the application's backend code only executes in direct response to a trigger.
So only when something actually happens.
Right. When a customer actually taps order, the compute resources spin up instantaneously, process the transaction, and immediately spin back down to 0. You are no longer renting 24/7 server uptime. You are paying fractions of a cent exclusively for the exact milliseconds your code is actively executing.
That is incredibly efficient. So what does this all mean? We've navigated the initial trap of the 30% commission, moved through the sticker shock of a $300,000 development bill, uncovered the hidden iceberg of Stripe fees, Google Maps APIs, and OS decay.
It's a lot to take in.
And we finally landed on the survival mechanics of subscription lock-in, single code-based development, and serverless compute.
It means that while the underlying cloud architecture and development frameworks are becoming more accessible, the barriers to survival are no longer strictly technological.
It's about strategy now.
Yes. The deciding factors are logistics optimization, customer retention velocity, and how ruthlessly a business can manage its digital overhead. The ultimate goal of building one of these platforms is no longer just delivering a meal.
What is it then?
It is seamlessly integrating your digital logistics into a user's daily habits until the custom app becomes utterly indispensable to their routine.
And the horizon we are moving toward is radically accelerating that integration. The industry is rapidly pivoting toward autonomous delivery networks, utilizing drones and self-driving robots to entirely eliminate the human labor costs of the last mile.
That's already starting to happen.
We are looking at AI-driven meal personalization that analyzes your behavioral graph to predict your caloric cravings before you even open the application. And most disruptively, the continued explosion of ghost kitchens.
Ghost kitchens represent the absolute decoupling of the restaurant from physical real estate.
Right.
They are online-only entities sharing massive, optimized industrial cooking spaces. There is no dining room, no waitstaff, no street-facing signage.
None of the traditional overhead.
Exactly. It is purely a digital brand, living entirely as a data structure inside an app, engineered strictly for high-volume delivery.
It is a total paradigm shift. The app is no longer just a digital extension of the restaurant. The app is the restaurant. Which leaves you with a thought I want you to really mull over. If ghost kitchens, algorithmic recommendations, and serverless architectures become the dominant reality, and this highly complex, incredibly expensive digital interface becomes the only storefront that matters, wait, what happens to the core concept of the local neighborhood restaurant in 10 years? If your favorite diner is nothing more than a localized data center, an automated kitchen line, and a drone routed through a custom application, does the physical brick-and-mortar restaurant even need to exist anymore? Think about that next time you tap order.